looking group we have here tonight, huh? Come on. Suppose you're all here tonight to see Will Rogers, right? Hold on a second. I heard somebody back there say, who's Will Rogers? How many of you folks know who Will Rogers is? Come on, raise your hands. Well, there's a few of you, so I think I better fill you all in. Now, Will Rogers is one of the biggest stars of all time. He began his career by spinning a rope. In fact, he got to be so good at it that he went to the Wild West shows. He had his own newspaper column, his own radio show. Who can forget about those wonderful motion picture shows he made, too? Aside from being a big star, well, he was an all-around good guy. For example, say there was some sort of a natural disaster someplace in the world. Now, Will would be the first one to go down there and raise money to help those people. He even ran for president of the United States. Then came that awful day in August 1935. Will was flying all around Alaska with his good friend Wally Post. You know, the famous aviator. Well, something went wrong and the plane went down.
Hello?
Needless to say, so did the hearts of every American.
No,
well, not since the death of Abraham Lincoln,
pan
there's so
over
many people attending the funeral.
there, right?
And that's why Mr. Ziegfeld wanted to do the show. He wanted to make sure that everyone knew just how wonderful Will Rogers is. And here you all are. I just wish I knew where Will was.
I can only see the
It's
bottom
not
of
like
the
it'd
stage,
be late, really.
the stairs.
I've got an idea. How about while we're waiting, I bring out the tap dancing cows? They're utterly wonderful.
I'll just try to fold.
Hey, wait. Regardless of what you might have heard, cows can be very musical. I know. They warned me about milking that joke. Folks, stay right where you are. I'm going to check back here and see if I can't find Will. Hey, has anyone seen Will back here yet? Ladies and gentlemen, Will Rogers is here. Come on. Right now, I want you to just sit back, relax, enjoy the show, okay? I've got work to do. Places, everyone. Places.
Now, there's a big group of people here. You can do better than that. Howdy! There we go. All right. Now, you all get along, but don't go far. All right. Thank you, David. Folks, get a load of this one. Here we go. Thank you, boys. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, was Mr. Ziegfeld's idea of how to open a show. Actually, I can't complain too much, considering I like it better than his first idea, which was to come down the same way, but without the rope. I'm glad you folks are here this evening, because Thursday night is always my favorite show of the week. Now, I did not say that last night, no sir. Last night I said that Wednesday night was my favorite show of the week. Oh, that occurs to me that most of you folks, when you hear the name Will Rogers, you half expect to see the ushers come down the aisles and pass across some little tin cans to collect your loose change for the Will Rogers Hospital and Institute. But folks, you do not have to worry, because we will not be doing that this evening. Mainly on account of we took most of your money when you bought your tickets for this cruise. Anyway, I figure we owe you something for it, which means I better get to work. Thank you. Well, folks, believe it or not, this is the same little act with a rope that I've been using to annoy audiences with all my life. And Mr. Ziegfeld, too. Matter of fact, the only reason Mr. Ziegfeld even puts up with my little rope act is to kill time. Well, while the girls are changing from nothing into nothing. I was kind of surprised to hear from Mr. Floor and Ziegfeld after all these years. And I was even more surprised when he suggested it was time to do another one of his follies, considering the last time he personally produced one was over 60 years ago in 1931. But Mr. Ziegfeld, you see, he said not to worry too much about the order of things, because his idea of my life was a whole lot more, well, theatrical than the way I actually lived it. And he'd be able to set us straight from time to time, because he'd be looking down. Well, that's right, just about where you folks up there are sitting. Well, he's in that booth, and he can look down on his show and see how things are moving along.
Moving along, Mr. Rogers.
Oh, well, so I guess I'd better move it along. Oh, but before I forget, I want to introduce somebody really famous sitting right here in our audience. America's foremost aviator, and a fellow Oklahoman, my good buddy, Mr. Wiley Post. Stand up, Wiley. Let's go flying, Will. Anytime, Wiley. Anytime. Oh, all right. Now let's try this. Well, believe it or not, a lot of folks say this ain't respectable work. My father hadn't been one of them. But there's nothing wrong with spinning a rope as long as your neck is not in. As a kid, I tied some knots. I learned to make a loop. Spun it horizontal to the ground. Practiced lassoing the fence posts. Almost anything I found. I'd even rope my sisters if they dared to come around. This pastime was my solitary skill. And people ask what will become of Will. So I told them, give a man enough rope. Give a man enough rope. And he can hang himself or not. That is the choice that he has got. He could wind up hanging down from a tree. Or he could spin himself alive. That could happen to me. Give a man enough rope. 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 Two hands, two guys, a pile of dope. One spins it fast, one saves it slow. You make a choice. Make a choice. Up to you what you do. This act ain't much, but through it I met kings and queens and out. Everybody's been with a different lesson. The first weeks of the risk. But I can't bother if they don't go. Just let them go. Never let them see that there's effort there. You may sweat inside but be dead in there. You go for tears and you go for jokes. Run off and stuff. Oh, there you go. Here it is. Follow me now. There we go. Well, right over there. I'll show you a little something new. What's that there? That's called a ham bone. Like when you guys are on stage, like a ham bone. Lesson 2. Part 2. There you go. Give it something. Back, front, hold. High blood pressure.
Well, come on, Will. Show them so they know now.
All right. Give a man enough rope. Give a man enough rope. And he can get all tangled in the figure eights he tries to spin, but I had luck. And the rope made me free. I spun my face in figures, broke my columns, made my schemes, broke my horse, all my family's blood. That's what happened to me. Give a man enough rope. Now, this part of the show, well, Mr. Ziegfeld wants me to introduce somebody really important. So important to me, that is. Man, without him, I wouldn't be up here right now. And that is my pa, Mr. Clement V. Rogers. Well, but first, I got to set the scene. Now, imagine you're in a little town in Oklahoma. And those are my 6 single sisters. Now, the date is Tuesday, November 4th, 1879. And the reason I remember so good is, that's the day I was born. Hi, girls.
Yippee-yay! Yippee-yay! I hit the old bullseye! Hooray, 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 that's the boy. Hey, I got me a boy. Step right up at the boy. I got a son in the air. What else can you compare? I have the tear. I'm passing out the letters. Yippee-yay! They need to shine on the family name. Yippee-yay! His paws are rancher, so he'll do the same. With paddles standing out yonder for miles around. The choir passing, the smokes and the smiles around. Hooray, 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 that's the man. And his powerful wail says he's hardy in hell and he'll be driving to me. When he knows that he part Cherokee like yes, Paul. I hope so long there are slim. I'm way out on a limb. Folks are riding on him. And he'll grow up to be a hell of a man. I'll make him a man, a hell of a man like George Boulay. Hooray, hooray, hooray.
I got some bad news.
Oh, Lord, son, don't tell me you were expelled from school again. You got to get an education, boy, so you never have to worry about winding up in the Congress. Well, I sent you to 6 schools in the past 7 years. You never made it past the 5th grade.
Well, the other kids keep making fun of me, Paul. They called me a redskin.
Redskin? You're not a redskin, Willie. You're an Indian. Our people didn't come over on the Mayflower. We met the boat. Well, go get married. Do something. Get out of here. Ooh. Time is flying.
Well, Paul, now that I'm 19, I've made up my mind. I'm going to the Argentine to be a cowboy.
The Argentine? Well, I always counted on you staying here and running this range.
Well, it ain't in me to run things, Paul, and what can I do with my life when I want to?
Well, I reckon you will, Will. Will, that sounds weird. But I wouldn't be a good father if I didn't try to make things as difficult for you as possible. Stop playing with the damn rope while I'm talking to you. Gee. You know, son, when your mom died, I promised I'd raise you proper. I'm getting ready to admit defeat. Speaking of defeat, mine are killing me. Defeat killing me? I'll go get something to eat. There must be a buffet open around here somewhere.
I'm sorry, Paul. I'm going to Argentina.
Well, what is this? You fancy a pappy? Why, you little whippersnapper? I'm gonna let you go to Argentina. But I gotta tell you something, Sonny. When you've ruined your life and you're down and out without a friend in the world or a dollar to your name, I want you to remember this piece of fatherly advice. I told you so! I'm gonna get the hell out of here while I'm still in a good mood.
Well, folks, I'm off to Argentina. Because there's a lot of people in this world, and even back then I knew I wanted to meet as many of them as my time on Earth would allow. Because people are what life is all about.
Just a moment, Mr. Rogers.
Yes, sir, Mr. Ziegfeld?
Mr. Rogers, forgive me for interrupting, but you've been out there for 2 scenes and we still haven't met the girl. As you should know, in a Ziegfeld production, the romance never starts later than the 3rd scene.
Well, as a matter of fact, I did meet Betty Blake before I went away. It was at the railroad station. Oh, no, Betty was the prettiest, sweetest girl in the whole territory. Now, she was working in the freight office, and I was expecting a pair of long flannel underwear from back east for my trip to Argentina. You know, the kind with the trapdoor in the back?
How very romantic. And where was this enchanted railroad station?
Oolacah, Oklahoma.
Oh, absolutely not, Mr. Rogers. In a Ziegfeld show, nothing ever happens in Oolacah. Stage manager, please.
Yes, Mr. Z.
Peter, have we got a set back there we can use? Something exotic, something Ziegfeldian?
Well, we've got that Fiji Island set, Mr. Z.
It's Fiji Island. No, come on now, Mr. Z. You might as well say we met on the moon.
Brilliant, Mr. Rogers. You met your wife on the moon. Peter, go set up the moon immediately. Well, just don't stand there, Mr. Rogers. You're going to meet your wife Betty on the moon.
Yes, sir.
Here I am, Betty Blake, a simple farm girl from Arkansas who's staying with my favorite single sister because I landed a really swell job in the freight office of the Missouri Pacific Railroad here on the moon. But despite the stories about the man in the moon, I haven't met him yet. Somehow I think I'd know him right away.
Sing, Miss Blake.
I beg your pardon?
We've had quite enough exposition, Miss Blake. Sing, please.
Yes, Mr. Ziegfeld. I'm drifting, I'm floating, a leaf in the wind, an aimless seedling sailing on the air. I'm empty, yet filled with some nameless feeling. I ache to come to rest somewhere in someone's arms, in someone's heart.
me. You the station master?
I'm his assistant. Oh, is there something I can do for you? I said, is there something I can do for you?
Did I happen to mention I was expecting a pair of long underwear? And that was coming in on the 5 o'clock rocket?
So far, you didn't mention anything at all. Say, by any chance, are you that shiftless Rogers boy I've heard so much about, who lives on a ranch a few miles out and spends most of his time spinning a rope? So how can you amount to anything?
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, glad to meet you. I'm Betty Blake, a simple farm girl from Arkansas who's staying with my 6 single sisters.
Oh, wait. You've got 6 single sisters, too? Oh, no, we're going to skip the next few lines as they didn't add up to much and get right to the good part. Gosh, you're nice, Betty Blake. I sure would love to hear you sing sometime.
Why, Will Rogers, how did you know I could sing?
Well, on Ziegfeld show, anybody who's dressed can sing. So how about it?
I have an even better idea. Why don't we take a long walk out to the edge of the Sea of Tranquility? I hear there's going to be a full Earth tonight.
Gosh, I'd love to, Betty Blake. Just as soon as I get back from Argentina.
Argentina?
Well, where I've decided to make my fortune. But when I get back, you're still single like your 6 sisters. I'd love to take that walk. Now, I'll only be gone a year. Bye, Betty Blake. I promise to write.
Adios. Adios very much.
All right, so Will wouldn't finish his education, and he didn't want to be a rancher, and he deserted me when I needed him the most. But is that any reason for him to stick me in this stupid costume, send me out here in front of all you nice people? I mean, what the hell is going on around here anyway?
I've been asked to deliver a postcard to Miss Betty Blake. Miss Betty Blake, there's a postcard for you from Will Rogers.
Thank you. Dear Blake, here I am in South Africa. South Africa?
Well, he didn't like Argentina.
Oh. Came here on a cattle boat and I got seasick. In fact, I was so sick that even
the cows couldn't bear to wash. I can't watch.
Do you mind? Thank you. When I got here, I found a job spinning a rope in Texas Jack's Wild West Show. What are you doing?
I was practicing. I am your understudy.
We're not exactly the same type. Why do you think they picked you?
I'm Mr. Ziegfeld's type, honey.
Anyway, now I've got some really good news. After being gone for over a year, Texas Jack is finally bringing the whole show back to the US of A as he has booked us into the St. Louis World's Fair. Oh, he's coming back. Isn't that wonderful?
There's Lauren.
Oh, I know.
Do you want me to read that?
You just can't wait, can you? On the way home, we have to play Australia and New Zealand. So if you're counting the days like I am, the exact number is 642. 642? Oh, Will Rogers, I am not wasting my youth on some shiftless, uneducated, rope-throwing, no-account Cherokee show business cowboy. No, sir, not this simple farm girl from Arkansas.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Do you want those 642 days to pass just like that?
Of course.
Then you just leave it up to me. Here, you take this. Ladies and gentlemen! Well, don't just stand there, honey. You go make that little change. Ladies and gentlemen, by special arrangement with Mr. Ziegfeld, that little pussy. That is now 640 days later at the St. Louis World's Fair of 1904. From that Texas Jack the most spectacular Bob West Show!
Come to the fair, it's the St. Louis Fair, and we're thrilled to be there. The year is 1904, and yes, you've seen us before. Rogers sisters before, but what our fun is in store. So now the Betty Blake, sweet single sisters, but we don't get that more. Hi, Betty. Cora, Anna, Wade, Theta, Virginia, Zulecki. My 6 single sisters. I'm sorry to have dragged you out of Texas Jack's Wild West show featuring Will Rogers and the Cherokee Kid. But I simply couldn't bear to watch a minute longer because I do not believe the show business is a respectable place for a grown man to earn his living.
Now, folks, how can you not love somebody like that? Hello, girl.
Hello, Will.
You know, if I didn't know better, I could swear those are my 6 single sisters. Now, hold on a minute, Blake. Now, what is so damn blamed wrong with what I do? Now, I'm happy when I'm out there in front of all those folks, and I know I'm making them happy, so don't you get your hopes up about reforming me, because when you marry me, you're going to get exactly what you saw under that tent tonight, including the audience, and nothing more.
Will Rogers, who ever said anything about marrying you?
Well, I did. Just now. So is it a deal or not?
It's a deal.
Well, okay. Let's shake on it.
Excuse me. Mr. Signo says the wedding always ends soon after.
Right.
Well, so anyway, after the wedding, I kissed the bride, and as the organist was playing "Oh Promise Me," well, I went and promised her.
Will, do you really mean it? Are you really through playing those dreadful Wild West shows?
I sure am.
Oh, thank you, Will.
From now on, it is strictly vaudeville.
Vaudeville?
Oh, come on now, Blake, you're gonna have the time of your life. There's the small time and the medium time and the big time and the medium small time.
Small time and the medium time and the big time.
And Kiwanis whole time, big time, look down on medium time.
Looks down on small time.
Looks down on accordion players, small time.
Big time.
Big, small, medium time, on the road from Maine to Dallas, hoping that will play her palace. When you touch me and when you hold me, my name lights up the marquee. Just to know that you love me is a big time for me. I gotta go do the 3rd show. I'll see you later, Blake.
Break it back.
Leg.
That's right. There's small time and the medium time and the big time and the medium small time. Packing, unpacking, and packing. We're off to Altoona tomorrow. We're going Altoona. Scrubbing, washing, ironing, men's bridges, women's clothing. Learn to live on gold, knowing everything on me. And when he loves me, we're close as lovers can be. On the circuit together, and life is joyous and free. Thank goodness we have no family. There's only Will and me. Sometimes we're together, getting along. Sometimes weak, sometimes strong. Better happy or better scrappy. Something easy and nothing perfect. Simple plain as we are. As long as we stay together, it's the big time for us. Rogers and Rogers and Rogers, 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 Rogers. It's the big time for
Hey, kids, get along now, you on. I got some talking to do. You know, Blake, I was thinking during the show tonight, how long we've been at this? 10 years? I know how tough it's been for you and the kids. Maybe my Paul was right. Maybe I should have stayed in Oklahoma.
Will, are you serious?
Well, I sure am. Let's face it, Blake, if my big break was going to come along, it would have been here by now.
Telegram for Mr. Rogers. Telegram. Well, Rogers.
That's me.
Aha. Are you Mr. Will Rogers that wrote the poem?
Nope. From now on, I'm just plain old Will Rogers.
Oh.
Thank you.
Mr. Will Rogers, Fox Theater, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Dear Mr. Rogers, pleased to invite you to join my 9th edition of my follies starring W.C. Fields, Eddie Cantor, and Ed Wynn. Stop. They offer you a salary of $600 a week. Stop. Expecting an immediate an affirmative reply. Most sincerely, Florence Ziegfeld.
Will, what is it? Your father's not sick again.
Oh, no, it's nothing important. It's just another book. No. Why don't you go pack up and collect the kids, and I'll give notice, and hey, we can be back at the ranch by Sunday night.
Oh, Will, you'll never regret this. After all, it's not as if you were giving up a really big opportunity or anything. I mean, turning down 5 a day in Cedar Rapids is not exactly turning down, say, the Ziegfeld Follies. You can't expect anyone in their right mind to turn down the Follies. Oh, there isn't an act anywhere on the circuit like yours, Will. That's why we're asking for $700.
Hey, I love you so much.
It's love, and there's no other choice to make.
Mr. Ziegfeld spends millions of dollars on costumes, so I can't understand why he don't let the girls wear them. Now, I'm glad you folks are here this evening for my anniversary, because tonight marks my 2,500th consecutive performance here at the Follies in New York, and a lot has happened in the last 6 years. The world's lost a few important men. Teddy Roosevelt died, Tsar Nicholas of Russia, and my pa, Mr. Clem Rogers. Now, it might surprise you to know that the three of them shared something in common. That's right, none of them ever caught my act. But now, folks, I got some really important news. Tonight is my final performance here at the Follies. Tomorrow, I'm off to Hollywood, California to be a screen actor. That's what I said. Not only that, but I am flying out there by airplane.
Be careful, Will.
Oh, no, I ain't actually doing the flying. I'm just along for the ride. No, I leave the flying to those folks who know how, like Wiley Post.
Let's go flying, Will.
Wiley, how come you're always here?
I'm waiting for you, Will. You said you'd go flying with me up to Alaska.
Not yet, Wiley. That don't happen till the end of the show. Never saw a fellow so anxious to break his neck. Never mind, neither.
What's going on, Will?
It sounds like a wedding.
Mr. Ziegfeld says you can get married now.
Well, it's about time. Well, Blake, you look beautiful.
So do you.
Well, I didn't exactly dress for a wedding.
Don't worry. You will be.
Marry me now. Marry me then. I don't care how, or where, why, or when. Anytime you ask me, I'll rush to the altar. Won't even falter 1,000 times. Ask me this fall, ask me next spring. Can't get enough of such a good thing. Make my life a honeymoon heaven for two. All my days and my nights like Turkish delight.
Ziegfeld is too cheap to pay another rector. So, with the power vested in me by Mr. Ziegfeld, that low-down cheapskate, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Well, don't just stand there, Sonny. Kiss your bride.
dying to know how it was I came to run for president of these United States. Well, in the spring of 1928, when this really distinguished fella came to visit me at the Astor Hotel right here in New York City.
Mr. Rogers, have you ever thought about running for the president of the United States?
That's the fella.
Mr. Rogers, now that you're the #1 star, stage screen, radio, newspapers, wouldn't you like to try for president? Your country needs you.
Well, I'll tell you, this country might be used to having anything at all named as a presidential candidate, but I don't think we've quite sunk to the professional actor stage. Well, that's what I said in 1928, folks.
So, will you run for president or not, Mr. Rogers?
I sure will. No one keeps them promises as history has shown. I'll run a clean campaign and that will be my winning card. Considering the kind you had, well, that won't be too hard. Mr. Chairman, the great junior state of Oklahoma, my King Street, my Main Street, round your place in nomination. The great junior state of Oklahoma cast its 22 votes. Studying history in school may recall that I did not become elected president. However, the actual truth is, I did carry one state, namely the District of Columbia, which, as it turns out, isn't any kind of state at all. Oh, but I do have some advice for those of you looking to run in the future. Do not go around telling the truth, because in an American election, nothing can hurt you more than telling the truth. Meanwhile, back at the range. Right. Well, did it suddenly get warmer in here, folks? Oh, Now, Mr. Ziegfeld always has a part of the show that he likes to call Trouble in Paradise, see? Only in this case, Paradise is Hollywood, California. Now, we're pretty rich by now, I guess. We had our own polo field, and our little ranch house had 22 rooms. The only problem was, because of my work, I wasn't spending as much time at home with my family as I wanted to. So this is the part of the show where the leading lady sings a torch song about her troubles while sitting on top of a piano.
Alone again in blue, he's left me alone again, what's new? All I do is sit and stare at a snapshot and an empty chair. What good's a man who's never there? He's a traveling man, he's a flying man, after dinner speaker, speechifying man, he's a one-man show. Thank you, Hastings. I feel much better.
Thank you, madam. You believe what they got me doing now? Check this out. Ah! Oh! Oh, dear.
Hello, Blake.
Hello, stranger.
Uh-oh. Did you ever notice how I seem to call my wife Blake whenever I'm in trouble? So I just took to calling her Blake all the time just in case I was in trouble and didn't know it. So how bad is it, Blake?
Pretty bad. Will, do you realize in the last year alone, you've turned out 4 full-length talking pictures, 52 radio shows, 365 newspaper columns, spoken at 151 banquets, and traveled to 19 countries on 5 continents? Will, why do you keep traveling? What are you looking for?
People. I just can't get over them, Blake. No matter how different they look or talk, they're all just the same.
Well, we're people too, Will. And all we want is more of you.
Oh, so does that mean you don't want any of those expensive presents I brought you?
What present?
Oh, I got them waiting outside, but this here's a small sample. The most famous amethyst in the world.
It must have cost a fortune.
Listen, honey, it's only money. Diamonds for Mrs. Rogers. They shine so bright like the lights in your eyes. Rubies for Mrs. Rogers. Not like the rhinestones you once got from other guys. Sapphire, so blue and brilliant, they all combine to make your gems red, white, and blue. With all the jewels above, I'll salute our love. I'm true blue to the flag and to thee. Emeralds for Mrs. Rogers. that you? Wiley, I ain't ready yet.
No one ever is, my friend.
But there's so much that I wanted to do.
Well, you say your goodbyes. I'll meet you at the field.
Will, do you have to go?
Yeah, I guess so.
Why?
Because I went.
Will Rogers, if anything happens to you, if you go and get yourself killed,
What do you do, Blake?
I'll never speak to you again.
We'd just taken off from that lagoon in Alaska when I noticed that the plane wasn't doing what Wiley had promised me it would do. Mainly flying. We're going down, Wiley. I remarked as casually as possible under the circumstances. Hell, Will, says Wiley. Nobody stays up forever. You know, the newspapers must have been pretty hard up for weekend news, which would explain why they made such a big fuss over it.
The accident occurred on August 15th, 1935, 300 miles north of the Arctic Circle.
In Washington, both houses of Congress observed a minute of silence.
Well, now, a minute might not sound like much. Do you figure whose mouth it is being kept shut?
The nation's motion picture theaters went dark.
Both NBC and CBS went off the air for a full half hour.
You know, I always loved airplanes ever since my first flight, but I never could get my paw to go up in one. He always used to say, if God had meant for a man to fly, he wouldn't have made the ground so hard.
They told us the truth and made us laugh at it.
People always ask me what it was like to be married to a national monument. But of course I never saw him that way. After all, national monuments do not kiss back.
I was never the easiest man to be married to. Betty always used to say that her only competition was everybody else in the world. Now, I guess I met a lot of people in my life, and I always tried to treat them like my Indian ancestors. You see, an Indian will always look back after he passes something so he can get a view of it from both sides. Now, a white man will not do this. Now, he'll just figure that all sides of the thing are automatically the same. See, that's why you must never judge a man while you're facing him. No, you got to go around him like an Indian. Take a look at what he's looking at, go back around and face him, and you'll have a totally different idea about who he is. You'll be surprised how much easier it is to get along with everybody. Never met a man I didn't like. I'm a little gentle, oh, Bowery Mama. Yes, I've come a long way down the pipe. Never met a man good time up here performing the show for you this evening. And now, before we send you off to the casino or to the buffet, because God knows you're probably hungry by now, just leave you with one last wish, and that is that each and every one of you goes out and has yourself a good life. And my best advice on how to do that is to live your life in such a way that, well, you would not be embarrassed to have Mr. Ziegfeld do a show about you someday. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, and good night.